Let me just share my screen and let me just share the assignment.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is the assignment, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the all the entities have a unique ID is mentioned, right, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
So does this unique ID mean a manufacturer and a product can have the same ID, or even they are supposed to have a different ID?
No, obviously that is why unique ID. No, unique ID means unique identifier, right? So,
Yes, sir. Like what I thought was that two products cannot have the same ID, but a manufacturer and a product can have the same ID.
but I have said here that all entities have a unique ID, which means
Okay.
that even a cost, because everything is an entity, right? So, like manufacturer is also entity, customer is also entity, product is also entity. So all of them should have a so every entity should have a unique ID. So that means that ID cannot be shared by customer and manufacturer also. So they will have different IDs.
Okay, sir.
See, because you see, organizations sometimes they will have, they will have a for internal whatever, let's say account keeping or something like that. They may have a they will want to have a underlying ID, ID which uniquely identifies the particular entity that the organization is interacting with, right? So they don't want to be confused about that. So it just happens that this is an integer here. Many times organizations may use some scheme, right? All manufacturer IDs start with M. So M1, M2, M3, M4 maybe manufacturer. Customers maybe C1, C2, C3, C4. For simplicity, because otherwise you have to keep it as a string and then all these things. So for simplicity, I have said that all of them should have a unique ID, which is an integer.
Excuse me, sir. I had a concern, like I had interpreted it the same way that Shashwat did. Like two customers shouldn't have a same ID, but like two different entities, like a manufacturer and a say a product can have same ID. So, but like now you said that they should be unique ID. So like, can I do it something like say like all if I'm writing a manufacturer ID, like it is supposed to start say with 0 and a product ID is supposed to start with 1 and then the rest two digits can be like as per the user's wish. So like I haven't hard coded this thing, but like I'll write this in the kind of a display that if you
Think
are
very good. So very good discussion. Yeah. So think about it. My idea is that that will be actually harder to implement. What you are suggesting will be harder to implement than just giving a unique ID.
yeah,
Understand?
like the issue with like a unique ID is suppose like I'm like if I am the user of the interface and I like I've started entering things. So like if I added 10 manufacturers, suppose like and the IDs I gave sequentially 1 to 10, like then I may next time when I add a new like some say product, then it may be difficult for me to remember like what was the last number. So that is why I thought
But yeah, exactly. So the user must should not. So okay. So I did not say unique ID entered by the user. The unique ID should not be entered by the user. The system should generate a unique ID every time you create a new entity.
oh, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Sir, but our group TA asked us to manually enter the ID.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Actually, that's
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I don't think that is a good idea. Actually in the assignment I have not put it there. So okay, so who's the TA?
Yogesh, sir.
the my tea is
Sir, your
Devang
TS.
Modi, sir.
Okay,
The,
so
yes,
actually,
sir. Sure,
so
sir.
I have a question here. So why don't you guys, do the, I don't know how you guys do the interaction, but you guys always send personal messages on Teams. Why don't you send like a group message or something so that I can also, it will be very nice. So this,
Sir, like the TAs have made WhatsApp group for interactions and we are using the groups for interacting with them.
Yes, sir.
And since they don't have you as a member, you won't be able to read the messages.
Oh, the TAs have made WhatsApp groups, is it? They are
Yes.
not using
Yes, sir.
channels, our Teams channels for interaction. Okay, that is somewhat strange. Okay, so actually, I would like to monitor some of this. Anyway, see, in cases of confusion like this, see, if you want to get it entered, that is fine by me. Okay, but a better design is that, I mean, see, at the end of the day, the correction will be done by the TA, but there should be some sort of uniformity. So I would say a better design will be that you should not get it entered by the user, because that is a very bad idea to have actually, right? So it will be much easier if you just maintain like a total number of entities. So then you just increment that total number of entities, and that is assigned as the new ID for that particular this thing.
Sir, in Java we can generate a unique ID, but it's not of integer type. Like we can generate a unique ID, but it is of type UUID.
Yeah, but that is a different thing. See, that is unique across many things, I think. Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you just
Can we
unique.
think like this, like the user will give us the ID only, but if suppose sometime it so happens that suppose two products have the same ID. I mean, suppose 1234 was the ID of a previous product, and the user has again tried to enter and create a new entity, new product with the same ID. Then my program will give them a prompt that product with the same ID already exists. Please change your ID, something like that.
Right. You can do that.
But in that case, we won't be able to check if a manufacturer and a product will have the same ID or not.
A manufacturer product, if they have the same ID, it doesn't matter because they're
No,
different.
the sir has said that they should also have different entities, different IDs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me try to see. Let me try to simplify this discussion. Okay. See, this is true. Okay. So suppose, see, so let me first tell you one very simple thing. Here, there is no one single correct answer. Okay. It is not like I am correct and you are wrong, or I am correct and the TA is wrong. Okay. It is about good design versus bad design. Okay. So this is number one. Now think of the situation, right? You are asking all these questions. You are asking the user to enter the ID. Okay. It can happen that repeatedly the user may enter an existing ID. Suppose your system has run into million customers now. Okay. And you are asking the customer to again enter an ID. So it may so happen that the customer may repeatedly try to, enter an ID which is already taken. Okay. So in order to solve all that problem, you see, when you go to a bank, for example, the bank gives you the account number, right? Account number is kind of a unique ID. So that solves the problem. On the other hand, there is also the other side of the problem that, see, sometimes the websites, they will prompt you to give your own login ID. So select your own login ID. Okay. So that is the other design. So there, the advantage is that the user may give the login ID as his or her own name, or name followed by something like this. Okay. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both designs. Okay. So yeah, so when I gave the assignment, I thought of that the ID may be generated by system, but if you want the user to enter an ID, that is also fine with me. So like I said, in this case, there is no correct or wrong answer.
Excuse me, sir.
Like one more issue, like even like if we generate ID within the system, like for the other functionalities, like suppose to delete an entity or to say like list out the inventory of a shop, like what I'm doing is, if I have to list out the inventory of a shop, I'll ask the user to give the like ID of the shop. Like I'll display the list of all the shops and their IDs and then ask them to enter. So like it's in this way it's like possible to display the entire list. But like if I display the entire list of the IDs and the corresponding entity everywhere, like the terminal would get like consumed very fast and like it would be very difficult for the user to follow. That is also one issue.
But that is the whole point. So see, that is why I said, so when you are listing, say, let's take any one of them, right? So list all purchases made by, or this is easy to this thing. Yeah. So create, delete. Yeah. See, print all entities of a type, right? So that means what? When you are trying to create a new customer, let's say, you will only or you are trying to delete a customer, let's say, so you will print only existing customers. You will not print the list of existing shops or existing manufacturers also. Okay. Does that solve your problem?
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though,
So if unique ID is system generated, then how will you use it in the program?
if the unique ID is system generated, how will you use it in the program? I mean, what is, so it will be stored in a field, and then it will be used to refer to that particular entity. So for example, the user may enter that particular entity ID in order to either get its listing or get its this thing like this. Why can't it be used? I mean, I did not understand the question, maybe.
Like if we create it, should you also means display it that entity with this unique ID is created as well creating it? Otherwise, how will the
Sorry, go
So
ahead.
like we need to provide it to the user like an account number that this is your unique ID or something so that they can use it again for any other purposes.
Yes. So think of it like a bank account number, right? So the system generates your bank account number, but then that number is communicated to you.
Okay, sir.
So, sir, like let us say we are asked to do the function of listing the inventories of a shop. So at that time we would require the ID. Otherwise, how will we uniquely identify the shop? Like,
Yes.
while creating an entity, we might not take, but while you doing other functions, we can take that as input, right?
Yes, of course. That is the purpose of having the ID, that at the time of the other functions. See, for example, here, let's say add a product to a manufacturer again is, yeah. So so forget that, right? So add a product to a manufacturer, right? So what will you do? Okay. So there are many, I will just tell two possible interfaces. One is that you may first list the IDs of all the existing manufacturers, okay, and then you may ask the user to choose a particular manufacturer from that list. So once the manufacturer choice is made, okay, and then you may ask the user to enter the name of the product. Now the user has mentioned the name of the product, so then you can create the product with the manufacturer as that particular manufacturer and name as the name of the product, which has both been entered by the this thing. Clear?
Sir, what about the ID? Because how will we then like?
Right. So you are
creating
right? So you are creating a new product. Okay. So let me just maybe use something here. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So you are able to see, right? So let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's say you have 4 entities in the system. The first one is product, the second one is manufacturer, the third one is customer. Okay. And the fourth one is also another customer, let's say C2. Okay, so this is C1 and C2. Okay. Now what you are doing, you are trying to add another product. So this was P1. Okay. So you want to add another product to the same manufacturer M. Let's say you have manufacturer M1 already in the system. Okay. So then first you will list all the manufacturers. Okay. So list manufacturers. Okay. So then, they will show, the system will show M1. Okay. So then you enter name, you ask for entering name. Okay. So let's say I enter the name, something like enter product name. So I enter P2. Okay. I mean, I need not enter P2. I'm just entering P2 just for the sake of it. I can also enter P12. Okay. Let me enter P12. Okay. And now the user does not have to enter anything more. Okay. The system will generate this ID 5. It will say this belongs to P12. Okay. And then it will say that the product ID of P12 is 5. It will print like this on the screen. And then new product successfully added.
Sir, this is
Yes.
for the second type of question, right? Add
This is
product
the
to
second type of question, yes.
Sir, but like so to create a product, there are two ways, right? From the first type of question, that is create an entity, that is like create an entity of the type product. So can we not just use that function to create a product and then add an existing product which doesn't have a manufacturer assigned yet, and then add it to a manufacturer?
Yes, that can also be done. Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that is acceptable, right?
Yes,
So-
that is completely acceptable. Yes.
Okay, sir.
So I had a confusion in this part. So like while creating an entity, suppose if I wish to create a product entity, I'm like compulsorily asking for a manufacturer at that time only, because like if I create a product without a manufacturer, it would be like in the second part there is a possibility that for the same product, some like by mistake two manufacturers are associated with that product. So like is it fine if I like make the second part and the creating an entity product entity part same? Like
Okay. So there are two questions as I understand in this part of the question, right? So one is, can there be two manufacturers of the same product? So that cannot happen. Okay. So let that be clear. So how will you design this design the program such that you can make sure that there are no two manufacturers of the same product?
so for that only, like I'm like using the first part, like whenever I'm creating a new product, like the user will have to enter a manufacturer compulsorily, like there and there, then and
Let
there
me
itself.
have from someone else. Can someone else answer this question? See, this is crux of software engineering. So two things. One is user interface. So the user interface question may have multiple answers, but the software engineering part of the question should be clear. So this is a very good opportunity to answer this. So from a software engineering point of view, how will you ensure that a product will have only one manufacturer?
We can guarantee that if two products have the same name, they must have different unique IDs, and if they have different unique IDs, they are essentially different products. So they can have different manufacturers.
No, but you are okay. So here is the thing. Okay, so you are already ensuring, first of all. So you are thinking in terms of Java, right? So suppose you are having a instance. So all of these are instances. So this is instance 1, which is an instance of which class? So it's an instance of class product. Okay, clear? So these are all instances of different different entities with their own types. Agreed. So what is the unique ID ensuring? The unique ID is ensuring that there cannot be a clash between instances. Let that be very clear. So not only, so we are furthermore ensuring that two entities also cannot have the same ID, but definitely two products cannot have the same ID, right? Or two manufacturers cannot have the same ID. So that part is done. Okay, at the time of creation itself, that part is done. So don't confuse that part. Okay, so there is no way you are going to create two different instances with the same ID. Okay, so having said that, now the question is, how will you ensure that you don't create two different products with or rather one product with two different manufacturers? That is the question. So let me type the question for your this thing. Okay, sorry. Okay, so one product should have one manufacturer. How will you ensure this? This is the question.
So when making product, will keep its manufacturer empty, means null, and we can assign manufacturer later, and if the manufacturer is already assigned, then we'll not assign it again.
Easier solution.
So can't we assign the manufacturer while we are creating the product? Like when the user is asking to create a product, we will ask for the manufacturer also to prevent any further confusions.
Right. So again, so let me just give you the solution and then come back to you. Okay. So I'm saying this is I'm just typing Java here. Okay. So I'm just saying, let's say I'm defining this class extends entity. Okay. And now I have a manufacturer class already, let's say, okay. And I say manufacturer M. If I design my product class like this, okay, is there any chance that one product can have two different manufacturers?
No, sir.
Agreed. So this is irrespective of when you enter the manufacturer. So this is software engineering. So this part you have to understand. Okay. So this is the software design. Software design. Okay. That this is the right way to, when I say that one product should not have more than one manufacturer. Okay, that means that your product should basically be something like this, that like I said, so entity, so suppose I have the entity, let's say I can say that class entity. Okay, class entity does not extend anything, let's say, and then I have int id and I have let's say your string. Okay, string name. Okay, so then basically what are the fields a product has? A product has id, name and manufacturer M, right? So that is all the fields the product has. So this part should be clear. Okay, and with this design there is no way one product can have two different manufacturers. Now comes the question that when to enter this. So two solutions have come up. Okay, one is, and these are all UI part. Okay, these are all user interface. Okay, or you will learn towards the end of this course. So sometimes these will be called something like the software design or interface design. Okay, so this kind of things will come. So there are two different things that you can do. So one thing that many of you are saying is that whenever you are creating product, you also make the user enter their manufacturer. Okay, so this is what I also demonstrated here, that at the time of creating or no, actually what I demonstrated is this second part where you add a product to manufacturer. So at that time, but I also talked about creating the product here. Okay, the product ID is 5. Okay, so that can be one thing. Other thing is that at the time of creation, you only ask for the product name. Okay, you don't ask for the manufacturer. At a later time, after creating the product, okay, the user has to also enter the manufacturer, or also has to add the manufacturer. Okay, now there also, so this is the user interface design. Okay, now at that, in terms of functionality, you can still, how will you implement this? So you can still have a function here. Okay, so you can say void add manufacturer. Understood? Okay, I'm not writing the function body. Okay, so you can have a function here, add manufacturer, and then see, you will have to have a function in the user interface, something like, so suppose I say public static void main. Okay, okay, and then here's actually even before that, somewhere here, I need to have a function something like void create product. Okay, now this create product can ask for a lot of information from the user. Okay, now you can, at the end of it, once you have created the product, you can just make a call to, suppose you have created product P, you can call p.add manufacturer. So in terms of software design, it will not be too much if you modularize the code properly. Okay, it will not be too much change if you change from one UI to another UI. Is this clear? Is the discussion clear, what we discussed till now?
So I had one confusion. So like if I create in the product class a manufacturer M, right? So like the same manufacturer I could have like created using the first function when I'm creating a new manufacturer entity. So like my doubt.
No. That is a very good point to clarify. Are you creating a manufacturer here? When you are saying manufacturer M, are you creating a manufacturer?
No, I'm creating an object manufacturer, like not creating a new manufacturer entity, but I'm creating an object of the type manufacturer.
Okay, any other answer? Anybody else?
Sir, we are referencing it to an existing manufacturer object.
Okay, this is also not entirely correct. Anything, anybody else wants to?
We are just declaring the variable.
Right. So we are just declaring the reference, saying that every product object will have a reference to a manufacturer. That's all we are saying here.
Okay, sir. So like in some part, like within the product class, like we'll have to define some method to associate the manufacturer to the product, right? So like
which method in this case?
No, suppose this add manufacturer method maybe.
Right.
So like my issue was like, will this M, suppose like there is a manufacturer ID, like I take as input for this add manufacturer function, I was muted, sorry. Yeah, so like if we suppose for the add manufacturer function, like take as input the manufacturer ID of the manufacturer that we want to associate with this product. So like my doubt was, if I like assign this M object like to the manufacturer and like entity that I created with given this ID, so like will it be a reference to it, or will it copy the like the items in the manufacturer entity, or like will it reference to that manufacturer entity? Like if I make some changes in the M object here, will it be reflected in the like original manufacturer entity?
Good question. Good question. Yeah. So in Java, so we have discussed this briefly. I mean, so you should read the. I mean, see, you have to understand the language. What happened? I don't know. Okay. So you have to understand the language in order to solve this. But essentially, what is happening is that it will in Java, when you assign it to another entity, I mean, assign another entity to it, it is a reference. Okay. And you could potentially change the property of the manufacturer through this reference.
Okay.
So that is how Java is defined. We discussed this const thing. So this const facility is also there in Java actually. Okay. So you can also define here something like a const. I forget exactly where you can define. I think in the beginning only you can define. Okay. And in that case, you will not be able to again change those properties. So suppose you want to design your software such that you want to change the manufacturer directly, but not through a product. Okay. Then you can define it constant here.
Okay, sir. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, doubt about the print function in the first point. What exactly will that print?
Yeah. Can you tell me what point you are talking about?
No, so in the assignment, there is in point number 1, the print function. Print. You have written create, print, delete. So what exactly should that print function do? I mean, will it print everything, or will it ask for specifications?
Yeah, so see, print function will operate differently on different objects, right? So for manufacturer, it will print only maybe its name. Or no, for manufacturer, maybe it can also. So manufacturer has a set of products which it can manufacture, right? So for the manufacturer, it may print the ID, the name of the manufacturer, which is the string, and also print the products which it can manufacture as a list.
So actually, I wanted to ask, will it print all the manufacturers, or will it ask for the unique ID, then print a specific manufacturer?
Oh, it will ask, it will first list the manufacturers, and then print the details of, it will ask user as an input for a unique manufacturer ID, and then print the details of that one. I mean, again, here, see, both are, there is no going wrong here. Okay, so I have not mentioned anything exactly here. So you can print all the manufacturers in detail if you want, or you can print the IDs of all manufacturers and then ask the user to IDs and names, let's say, for all the manufacturers, and then ask the user to enter a particular ID and then print the details of that particular manufacturer.
Sir, can we do the following? We just print only the ID and the name of the manufacturer, and if the user wants to get the entire product list, then they can access the query of type 8.
Right. That is also possible. Yeah.
Also,
So
sir,
sure,
delete a product,
That
delete a
is a good
manufacturer.
user interface to have. According to me, that is a good user interface to have.
Okay, sir. Sir, when we delete a manufacturer, does all the products that the manufacturer was making also get deleted?
That's a good point. So my suggestion will be no, right? So yeah. So let the product be there, because there is, but then so there was this question, I think, that I don't know who asked. I think somebody asked whether this exact same question or no, I don't remember. So then the question is, suppose you keep the products that this manufacturer was manufacturing, okay, and then so how do you print the so suppose somebody lists one of those products, okay, or orders one of those products. So how will you print its manufacturer? Because you have already deleted the manufacturer object. So you will not be able to get, for example, the manufacturer ID or the manufacturer name. Okay. So so what you can do, you can in the product, okay, you so you can do two things. You can, when you delete a manufacturer, what you can do is you can still keep the object around, okay, so that, for example, if somebody is trying to print the past orders, okay, that program will not crash, okay, because that program will access the, in the past some customer may have already ordered a product and that product has a particular manufacturer, okay. So when you are listing the past orders, you have to list all the products that the customer has purchased and the corresponding manufacturers also, right? So you can just mark that particular manufacturer as deleted, but keep the name. So this is one thing. Other thing is, you can also do is you delete the manufacturer, okay, but in the product you basically make the pointer to the manufacturer as null, okay. So then you know that the manufacturer has been deleted. So when you are trying to print the product, you modify your function, print function, accordingly, so as to check that if the manufacturer is null, then you don't print anything there. Understood?
Sir, similarly, when a manufacturer or a product is deleted, do we need to update the shop and warehouses data also?
Yes.
Like, need to update the inventory.
Yes. So more than when the manufacturer is deleted, probably when a product is deleted, you must update.
Sir, but when a product is deleted, that means a product is stopped being made, but the existing stock in a shop or a warehouse remains unchanged, right?
Yes, yes. So that is why I said, when a manufacturer is being deleted, you need not probably delete the inventory, okay? But when the product is being deleted, then you should delete the inventory.
So product deletion is something like as if like the product has been banned or something and it's not in use.
Yes, something like that, let's say. Yeah.
Okay.
So the company or the website is not selling this product anymore for whatever reasons. It could be banned, could be it stopped selling. So even though it may have some residual inventory, they will not sell that.
So also, sir, like there could be means two different manufacturers produce the same product, means having the same name. So there could be such a possibility also, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. So at least I have not specified that it cannot be, right? So it can happen, yes.
Okay, sir.
But the ID cannot be same.
So when we're saying that each and every product should have a unique ID, so what does it actually mean? Like add product to a manufacturer. So suppose a manufacturer manufactures belt, I mean a particular type of belt. So when we are adding the belt to a shop, that means we are adding copies of that belt to the shop. So those copies should have unique ID. But actually the type of belt that the manufacturer manufactures, that should not have a unique ID, right? Because
so the product should have a unique ID. So product is belt. So belt will have a unique ID.
So, but with the manufacturer, there should be a copy of the product, but there should be multiple copies of the product having different IDs.
Right. Yes. And they are indistinguishable from each other. So they don't have IDs. So they only have inventory. So at any point in time, you just maintain that I have 5 belts. Okay. Belt number 1 is not different from belt number 2. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, like, can you show the assignment once? Like, I had a doubt in the 4th and the 5th part. Sir, like, adding an order of a product from a customer and processing an order, like, won't these two be simultaneous process, or like, do we have to store the orders? Like,
so adding an order is see, the customer can always order, right? So customer can, for example, order a product which did not exist, which does not exist in the inventory, or in that particular zip code, or something like that, right? But processing will have to take care of all of those things. Then processing will have to take care of assignment of delivery agent.
okay, so like, suppose if like a customer orders something like which is not in their zip code, which is not in any shop in their zip code, so like I can, like, the interface can tell the user at that point, like display something like the product you asked for isn't available at the moment, please try after some time, something like that, right, at that moment itself? Or do I need to store that order like for some
Yes, you
time
can. So as of now, what I have said is you will take the order, and after some time you will inform the customer that sorry, this order cannot be processed. If so, it's again a user interface issue. So see, I am very flexible with the user interface. Whether you want to immediately, so not both are correct. Nothing is wrong there. What is important is that these two are different tasks, and the way you are designing your software, you should segregate these two parts. One is taking the order from the customer, other is processing that order. So the functions that you implement, they should be different.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So like the functions can be different, but then like while giving the menu, when the customer creates an order, the processing of an order can happen automatically in that part itself.
Yes. If you want, it can happen in that. So since I have not mentioned anything specific in that, see, if you see the language, see, you will get used to this. See, what I have said is you have to implement the following functionalities. So these are functionalities which your software must implement. And then there is a text-based interface that you are that you are supposed to implement, okay, which can access all the above functionality. So here all the the interface, how so interface design is kind of an art. I mean, to software design is also an art, but so in software design also there is no there are cases where there are two design alternatives and both are correct. But there is much more. So at least in the software engineering course, we try to, for example, I'm trying to tell you that you should do an object-oriented design. Okay, so we are trying to put a structure. I'm trying to put a thought process into the structure about the software design. Interface design, I'm not so much putting a structure here. So whatever is, from a usability point of view, whatever is correct is fine.
So I mean, like my main doubt was like when the 9th point says that a master text-based interface to access all the above functionalities, does it mean like that the user will have a separate function for process an order? Like will he have an option whether to process an order or just keep it there and not process an order? Does it mean to access in the sense like he has the option of processing, or does it mean that this part just must be there as a function in the code itself?
Yes, so here, because see normally, so one way to see, first of all, process order should not be user's functionality, right? Process orders should be a functionality which is accessible to somebody within the system, like a person within the system. Okay, so this is the number one thing. Okay, but so what do we mean by so now in this case, so there's the user and there's the customer. Okay, so in this case, the functionality should be accessible to the user of the software. Okay, but which user of the software? So there are so many users. There's the manufacturer is also an user, customer is also an user, right? A delivery agent is also an user, and so on and so forth. So so on the user part, so we are not making those distinctions right now. Okay, so I'm just saying just access all the functionalities. Okay, so yes, so I mean the user should have access to the functionality. Yes, so but the customer may not have that functionality.
So it means like the process and order function, like it should be a separate function in the menu, but it shouldn't be provided to the customer. It should be provided maybe to the shops and warehouse, whoever is selling it to them or something.
Yes, or maybe even not that, right? So even it could be a facility which is given to somebody within the online shop, like online organization, because the warehouse, the particular warehouse also has to be chosen. So suppose there are two shops or warehouses in the same zip code which can be satisfied, then you can randomly choose anyone, right?
So then like the customer would have to wait for anyone to process the order. Like they wouldn't get the output like when they put an order, they wouldn't get the output that this is not available in your region or something. They would have to wait for someone to access it through the admin or through the shop and warehouse to process that order, and then they would get then the output would be shown that this order is not being sent to you because there is no product available in your zip code or something.
Right. So that is the idea. So that is the more robust system, right? So the customer should not, because it may be that the customer is giving the order in the night, okay, outside the working hours, okay, but the order can only be processed next day morning or something like that. Could be happening, for example.
Yes, sir. So like the issue is like mainly like which I was facing was that in a practical situation, admin and a customer, like they have two separate text interfaces, but right now it's like everything in one text interface, right? So like when I would click on process an order, when an admin would click on process an order, then the output on that single text interface would come that this order has not been processed because of some reason.
Right. So here what you do, I mean,
Sir,
I mean, you are.
Sir, I was thinking a bit differently. Like whenever we order something online, so it gets processed. Like if it is available or not, we get that shown.
Okay, so let me first answer the
right?
question, and then maybe you can speak. Huh? Yeah, I don't know. So see, my take on this is that see, you are so I don't prefer one interface over the other. Okay, so some of you are saying that as soon as the order is placed, the order should be processed also. Okay, yes and no. I mean, I don't care, because in some situations it is fine, in other situations it is not fine. Okay, so so a more general interface will be where you can allow for a separate functionality to process the order. Okay, so what is this? So the next question is about how to provide this functionality, because as you said, you know, in the real life situation, the person processing the order will have a different computer, will be sitting on a different computer, and the person giving the order will be sitting on a different computer, and they will look at two different interfaces. Okay, so yes, so in this particular case, in the master menu, you can simply give it as another option, because here there is nothing saying, you know, authenticate the user. So those things we have not put here, that you have to, otherwise there should be some sort of authentication, which we will come to as we proceed. We will come to those kind of things. Okay. But a simple option here will be that in the text interface itself, you give another option, which is process an order. And then it will, you know, give a list of all the orders which have been placed but not have been processed. And then you can choose one of the orders to process.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
So I hope.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, I had a more like general question related to the language that suppose I want to delete a product. So the product is in the list of the all products as well as it's in the list of its manufacturer and in the inventory list of all the shops. So if I delete the product from one location, say suppose the list of products of its manufacturer, then will it get automatically deleted from all the places? Like do all the places, like do all the copies are stored in the same memory location, or they are separate copies of that object?
Okay, yeah, so this is the question that was, let me just let me just come to this one. Yeah, so you remember, so if, what did we say here? So if you define it like this, then what will happen? Can someone tell, if you define it like this, what will happen? And at a later stage you just assign. So your add manufacturer is, it takes so here you write the code something like enter manufacturer M, okay, and then let's say input M IM, okay, and then you say here that something like this dot M is equal to IM. Okay, so what do you think will happen in this particular case?
So it will get deleted from all the places.
All the places, right? So because you are storing the reference, okay, if you delete this, then delete the manufacturer, okay. So by the way, that is also another thing, that in Java you don't have the delete functionality. In C++ you have. In Java you can only, so if you, so basically Java uses something called the reference counting, okay. This I did not discuss, so I can just maybe a little bit discuss. So what happens is, so whenever you know the object, so let's say you define a product, something like so let's say you define this product P12, okay, and then to this P12 you add this manufacturer M1, okay, through the add manufacturer interface. So P12 is now manufactured by M1, and then at some point in time you delete this P12, okay. What will happen in Java is, actually the reference count to M1 will get reduced by 1, okay. M1 does not get deleted. In fact, nobody knows when the object M1 exactly get deleted. That is taken care of by the the JRE, which is the Java runtime environment, it is a procedure called garbage collection. So garbage collection periodically deletes all those objects whose reference count has become 0. Okay. So this is how the system works. So this is in Java. In C, C++, things will be different. So you have, so we can discuss that at an appropriate time. Does that answer your question?
Sir, that means suppose at the same time, if there are two lists and I delete a product from one list, then the reference to that product would remain in the other list, right? It
Yes,
won't get deleted.
and the product itself will also remain.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Yes.
So regarding creating entities, so like we have a separate functionality of creating, deleting, and printing entities, right? So that was the first like functionality given in the assignment.
Right.
And there is a second functionality of adding a product to a manufacturer. So like,
Right.
what's the difference between creating a product and adding a product to a manufacturer? Because while creating a product also, you would be asking the manufacturer ID too.
Yes. So you could like I said, right? You could adopt both UI design. So while creating a product, you may ask the manufacturer ID or you may not ask the manufacturer ID. Okay, that is the user interface design. Even if you ask the manufacturer ID, you could still use the add product or add manufacturer, okay, to a function call to actually, implement, to actually add the, remember, there are two things to be done here actually. So one thing I did not mention. So actually this is add a product to a manufacturer, okay. So the second one, basically if you see here, what I have mentioned is that manufacturer has a set of products which it can manufacture. So just because you are adding the manufacturer to the product doesn't mean that the the manufacturer also automatically gets informed about the product. Okay, so in the manufacturer entity also you have to modify the list of products. Okay, so for all of these you have to implement the functionality. So I think add product to manufacturer, that is the functionality. Now question is, when do you call it? That is the question. So you can call it right at the time of creating the product, or you can call it at a later time also. Okay, so for example, somebody, let's say one brand has sold a particular product manufacturing rights to another brand. So the product remains, okay, but now instead of brand one manufacturing it, brand two is manufacturing it. So you have to accordingly modify both the product's manufacturer and the manufacturer's product list for both the manufacturers, right?
So the second part is somewhat like when we are changing a manufacturer for a product. Like while creating a product, it would have had an initial manufacturer which it would have stored. But while adding a product to a manufacturer, like a different manufacturer might get that product, something like that.
Right. So that is one thing. But at the time of implementation, you will use the same interface to, I mean, a good software engineering practice will be that you will use the same function to implement both the functionalities. Understood?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is basically, see, there are principles like you should not have duplicate code. Okay, so as much as possible, try to minimize the amount of code. So it comes from that. Okay, so yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
So one thing is, let's say there are two manufacturers, manufacturer 1 and 2, and I add a product and I ask for the manufacturer ID and it is given to manufacturer 1. And then I didn't add the product one to the manufacturer one's list. Like that isn't done yet. And then manufacturer two wants to add product one to their list. So that should create an error, right?
Yeah. So see the way this second thing should happen. Okay, the second step should happen. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So the way the second point should happen, it should maintain that consistency. Okay. So if it should not be that if a particular product is in a manufacturer's list, okay, but the manufacturer for that particular product is listed as someone different, that should not happen. So your interface should be such that this consistency should be maintained.
So, sir, like the second point is something like it's not a separate menu function, but it's something like you maintain the consistency that even the manufacturer's product list gets updated with the new product which had been added.
Okay. So see, I think I understand. So this is an initial confusion you will have. See, these points are not menu functions. What is each of these points talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are these menu functions or are this something else? What is this talking about? See, this is what I have been trying to sort of highlight, right?
Like these are functionalities which must be there in the code.
Right. So now, see, this second one is just a functionality. So my point is that there should be only one function implement, not like one function. I mean, it could have a set of functions, but there should be one piece of code which implements this functionality. Okay. Now that piece of code can be called in two places. Once when the product is being created, just after the product is created, okay, you may call this piece of code, okay. Let me call for the sake of generality, let me call it module. Okay, so this is a module. Okay, so this module should be invoked in two places. Once where in the user interface you are saying a particular product's manufacturer is being changed. Okay, that is one place it can be called, or it can be called when a new product is being created. Okay, in both cases, it can be called. Understood?
So, sir, whenever a manufacturer adds a product, it can as well be a new product, right? A new product is being added.
Yes.
With I know what the manufacturer is, obviously, because they are adding it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sir.
But sir, we can also assume that the entity is already created, and after that only we are adding a product to manufacturer.
What do you mean assume that?
Means if a user wants to add a product to a manufacturer and either of them doesn't exist, then he first creates that entity and then only proceeds to add it to a manufacturer.
Yes, yes. So that's what I'm saying. These are the UI questions, right? These are the UI questions which you must ask. Okay, so suppose let's say you make this assumption that if a user wants to add a product to a manufacturer, okay, but the product, either the product or the manufacturer does not exist, okay, will you allow such an option in your menu?
And I may allow and then just create a product or a manufacturer there.
Well, it's your choice, but maybe that is not a good idea, right? So maybe your user interface should be such that it should only allow existing manufacturers to be assigned to existing products.
So, sir, in that case, we can just show all the manufacturers and all the products and what the available options are. And then if they give an invalid request, it's thrown out.
See, it is not a isolated decision. How you make your user interface, overall, the usability should come out of the user interface. But software interface or the software functionality is given here.
So, sir, like we can assume it like something like in the first part, we are creating a product, and while creating a product, we would be taking a manufacturer too. But in the second point, when we are adding a product to a manufacturer, it must have been an existing product and it's an existing manufacturer. And when we're adding a product to a different manufacturer, it's kind of overwriting the old manufacturer of that product. So maybe like the manufacturer might have changed or something.
Right.
Okay, sir.
Okay, any other questions?
So, sir, if the manufacturer of a product can change in between stuff happening. So, like, let's say a customer orders some product, and then the manufacturer changes, and then the customer again orders the same product. So, it will be seen by the program as two separate products, right? Because they have a difference in the manufacturer IDs when the customer ordered. Because in the customer's history, he should know what manufacturer it was from when he ordered it.
Yes. So that is a good point. So it depends on your design. Okay. So if so yes, you can store it like that also. Or what you can do is so if you just use references. So when somebody prints the old order history, okay, it would still look like, it would look like in the past also they have ordered the product from the changed manufacturer.
That should not happen, right? Because that was not the case. And the history should reflect that.
Yes. So, it's up to you. Yeah. So, what I would say is, for the purpose of this particular program, I wouldn't take that as an error.
Okay, sir. And also, let's say a shopkeeper wants to add some products to his shop, and he is already in the database. So, do we assume that he knows his ID?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so he can enter his ID by himself only.
Yes.
Like we can ask.
Yes, or he can, ask a list of all IDs and all shops and then select from there. Both are fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, all the IDs must be randomly generated.
Randomly generated, I did not say like that, right? Need not be random. It should be unique.
Yeah.
So, sir, unique IDs, can we take it from the users or we generate it ourselves? Unique IDs, like we can implement that in such that the unique IDs can be generated by the users only.
Yes, you can.
You can keep list of existing IDs.
Yes, sir. List of existing IDs. That's what I'm talking about.
List of existing IDs means?
Like whenever a new entity or anything is trying to be added, we just check if that ID is already taken or not. If it's taken, we just say a message that this ID is taken. Please give a valid ID.
Yeah. So that is like how, websites, they ask you to enter login ID or something when you're creating a new login ID in a website. You can do that, or what we had this discussion earlier that you can simply generate system can generate a ID. That is easier. But I mean, again, it's a user interface issue, so you can do that.
Okay, sir.
See, the purpose of the assignment is that you understand this design of this relationship of different objects, and basically you design things that way. Okay, so yeah, I think most of you are getting things. So yeah. Okay, anything else we want to discuss?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have texted you in the Microsoft Teams regarding this. Could you please check it now?
See, one thing, I mean, just for future, please send it's very difficult for me if I'm not replying to your personal text messages. It is sometimes becomes very difficult. So, yeah, so please send a general message in the team so that in the discussion here, like here, or what I can do is I can create channels for all the TAs here, and you can also send it in different channels. Okay, but don't send it in private chat because it becomes difficult for me to disturb. So I think this is the one you are talking about, right?
Yes, sir. This is not actually a doubt regarding the assignment, but a permission that I'm seeking. So
Okay. So what we will do, like we said, right? You put this up with your TA, and obviously, like some of the cases where like health related issue. I mean, yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, so health related issue, definitely. I mean, we will consider. So don't worry about that.
okay, so thank you.
I also mailed you regarding the same. So, like, do I need to inform my TA for this assignment regarding?
Yes, better to inform the TA, and they should keep track of it, because what happens is at the time of checking, okay, they will check. So they will finally give the marks. So at that time, they have to know that, you had earlier asked for this permission and you have let's say, like a postponement or something like that of the deadline.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Sir, I also had COVID and I'm in China, so I texted my TA. So he told me that it will be granted, just I have to email you. So I mean, so will it be granted to across all the assignments during my this medical leave?
Yeah, so typically the policy is that if you are having a medical leave, then you are exempted, you will be granted extension. Yes.
Okay, sir.
So like in my case, what would be the extension? Like by how much will it be decided by the TA, or like will it be decided by
The
you?
medical leave, right?
Okay, sir. So like they asked us for a 7-day quarantine and like didn't as such tell about a medical leave. Like I'm attending classes as of now because like if I'll miss classes, there would be a lot of like.
No, but there should be like a medical certificate or some sort of something should be there, right?
Yes, sir, I have a prescription from the Sri Hospital and
that's enough. So based on that, just send that to your TA. So that person will store it, and then they will basically we will in the TA meeting we will take a decision based on that
okay.
document.
Okay, thank you.
Okay then, thank you very much everyone.